The Demon King was on his knees, bleeding and looking totally messed up. You could see pain and shock all over his face. Like, he couldn't believe what just happened. Inside his head, he started thinking about how, when life hits hard and you don't get it, you just deny everything. He didn't even realize what was real anymore. The place was a mess. Dead heroes and monsters everywhere. It was hell. The Demon King kept thinking about his awesome black flames that used to be his pride and joy, but now, even they couldn't kill the heroes. He wondered why the hell the sword god could stab right through him. Even with all his tough demon scales and heart, he was totally lost. He let out a weak question, asking how this could even happen. Then he got a bit lost in his memories. Back in the day, the guy thought he was the best of the best. He went to Demon King Military Academy, was #1 in his class, and graduated with top honors. Our hero followed the Demon King's standards, a bunch of rules made by the first Demon King Emperor himself, better than anyone else. He even researched this old book more than every other demon. Following those rules, he built a giant tower, kidnapped princesses, and watched as heroes came running to save them. He said that, to a Demon King, making heroes angry and sad was the best meal, but you shouldn't kill them too fast, because that just made things annoying. He thought being a good Demon King meant helping heroes get stronger, and then, when they were at their peak, eating them up. The stronger the hero, the better the taste, apparently. Kinda gross, but whatever works for a demon, I guess. With all his loyal demon servants and eyes glowing like crazy, the Demon King felt like conquering the world was just a matter of time. He took in all the anger and sadness from heroes and normal people and became the strongest Demon King ever. But now, in the present, he couldn't understand why he ended up losing. He kept asking himself how this was even possible. That's when the sword god, the hero with an ugly face and a rude attitude, smirked down at him. He said it's funny how Demon Kings always acted surprised like this. They kept making the same dumb mistakes and then looked shocked when they lost. He said he really didn't get it. Why did they never see it coming? The Demon King was pissed and called it all bullshit. But the sword god just kept going and said Demon Kings always kidnapped the most famous princess and left clues behind, basically inviting heroes to come stop them. Then, he grabbed the Demon King by the hair and said that if he was in charge, he would have killed the king instead, because that would throw the whole kingdom into chaos. But the Demon King had his reasons. He thought that if he kidnapped the king, humans would just fight each other for the throne, and their anger wouldn't come to him. That meant he couldn't grow stronger, so it went against the rules. The sword god kept teasing him, saying if heroes didn't go to the tower, the Demon King would just send a bunch of monsters to the villages to help heroes train anyway. He even said he was grateful for the free training. And if the heroes did come to the tower, it was way easier, because the first floor was full of weak monsters and everyone could level up at their own pace. People acted like the tower was a training gym. The Demon King denied everything again. He thought he had to keep the heroes alive as long as possible to get more energy. That's what the standards told him, and he tried to be careful because of it. But suddenly the hero stabbed him again, leaving him totally destroyed. The sword god continues, when the tower got boring, they'd just kill the Demon King, and a new one would show up with a new tower. It was the perfect hunting ground for heroes, and the other heroes started laughing at the Demon King, thanking him for helping them get strong, even calling him their godfather, and saying this tower was the best playground ever. On his deathbed, the Demon King was just staring at them in horror, realizing that all this time his tower was just a training zone for heroes. The sword god admitted that the Demon King was actually pretty strong, and that a lot of heroes died this time, but he was happy because now he was famous. Then, he said goodbye and raised his giant sword to finish the Demon King off. But the Demon King was furious. He couldn't believe a human was doing this to him, making him look like a joke. He started freaking out, thinking he couldn't just die like this. He needed revenge or something. Suddenly, dark red energy exploded from his body. His rage was insane. He screamed that he was the Demon King. Then, the sword god's huge sword cut right through his neck, blood spraying everywhere. The head rolled onto the floor, his eyes still full of hate. Inside his mind, the Demon King swore that anyone who looked down on him would pay for it. Is this the end for him? Not yet. The sword god then told the other heroes not to touch the Demon King's head because he wanted the horns for himself. But then, The Demon King's body started glowing with this wild purple energy. The sword god was like, "What the hell?" And as the body just kept glowing brighter and brighter, he realized something bad was about to happen, but it was too late. A blast of purple energy exploded out of the Demon King's corpse, covering the whole room and turning them into dust. In his last breath, the Demon King thought that the standards were wrong and that if he ever got another chance, he'd forget about those stupid rules and just send orcs or something instead. The whole tower exploded into dust and purple light. Then, everything went dark. No sound, nothing but blackness. Some weird voice started to whisper from the darkness, and a soft blue light appeared. The voice kept repeating something strange, and then, suddenly, a young guy's eye snapped open. It was him, Berger Deus, the Demon King, looking way younger than before. He was standing inside a room packed with demons, really confused. He started thinking, "What the hell? Am I alive?" On a stage, an announcer with green hair called out his name, telling him to come forward. Berger was shocked, thinking that was his name. The announcer told him to hurry up. Berger started realizing that this place looked exactly like his graduation day from the Demon King Military Academy 15 years ago. Then, the director, a big old dude with white hair, walked up to him and asked why someone so smart was acting weird on such an important day. The director pinned a red badge on his uniform, and Berger remembered that it was the symbol of all Demon King graduates. He realized he had gone back to his school graduation from 15 years ago. He had no idea why, but he thought this was his big second chance. A loud voice told all graduates to come to the stage. The graduates, who would soon be Demon Kings, had to recite their pledge. The announcer then called out for Berger to read the pledge as their top student. A massive blue screen popped up, showing the Demon King's standard, rules about building towers, kidnapping princesses, and growing heroes for energy. Berger remembered these rules too well. He had memorized them and followed them perfectly before, and it only got him wrecked by the heroes and humiliated in front of everyone. Now, he realized he was being asked to swear, right in front of the academy, that he would follow the same trash rules that ruined him once already. Man, the guy was fuming. The announcer kept pushing him to read the standard, and Berger was basically shaking with anger. But then he just snapped. Our MC stood alone on stage, faced the whole school, and straight up said he refused. The crowd totally froze. They couldn't believe what he just said. Berger shouted, saying he couldn't promise to follow something so stupid. He said the standard was nonsense and called it trash. His voice was so loud it shook the whole hall. Everyone, students and teachers, looked freaked out like they just saw a ghost. But he just stood there with a cold, determined face. And that, my dude, was the moment when the best student in the Demon King Military Academy, our guy, the summa cum laude, became the school's #1 problem and ended up dead last. The next thing, Berger is now on trial. Archduke Arcane Blarimf, just losing his mind. The guy was yelling like Berger had just insulted his whole family. He told our MC that he might get executed right there for trash-talking the Demon King's standards. Seriously, the guy was not messing around. But then, Arcane said, because Berger used to be so good and talented, they'd give him one last shot. All he had to do was take back what he said and apologize in front of everyone. If not, well, he'd get sent to Erin. Now, the whole room full of demons started freaking out when they heard that place. Some demon lady asked if they were for real. Another masked demon said that's where Demon Kings go to just die all the time. One of the demons called it a death sentence and said Berger didn't even deserve another chance. Some white-haired demon girl said even an apology wouldn't fix things. Yeah, you could tell nobody wanted to go to Erin. Arcane stared down and reminded Berger that Erin was this cursed place where a ton of Demon Kings lost their lives. But then, get this, our boy, Berger, just smirked like he didn't care and told them to send him. That was insane. He even said he'd go prove those standards were garbage. The Archduke looked like he was about to have a heart attack from rage, but he had no choice left. Suddenly, Berger was standing in the middle of this huge glowing red magic circle, and Arcane shouted that he was getting sent to Erin. No special treatment, no demon sidekicks, and he wasn't allowed to come home until the job was finished. Then, boom, the magic circle flashed, and our MC got sucked up into a light vortex and teleported away. Next thing you know, Berger was falling through the sky above Arine, just falling and thinking to himself about how he really did it this time. He remembered that this was the place where the heroes who killed him used to be, and he was the one who picked it before he went back in time. He thought only the strongest demon kings should go to the hardest worlds, but that kind of thinking got him killed before. He also remembered how too many heroes were using the Demon King standards to get ahead, to become stronger and trash talk the tower. Now, our MC landed in the snowy Regressed mountains, sitting there with his big black wings out and his horns glowing. Berger promised himself he wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. This time, he planned to use the hero's own tricks against them. He would make use of the hero's standard. Then we got a little flashback about Gordon Dyrick, the demon with sharp style and long black hair. The guy was super proud, looking good in his uniform on graduation day. While Demon King Academy made demon kings, Demon Academy made the demons who served them. And guess what? Gordon was the top demon in his class, so he was supposed to serve Berger, the top demon king. Other graduates were talking about how lucky Gordon was, and even the guy who got third place was jealous. Inside, Gordon was hyped, thinking Berger was basically a legend, demonic dragon blood, once-in-a-millennium genius, all that. He even dreamed about being famous and standing in history right next to Lord Berger. But then, that memory just blew up. On stage, Berger suddenly started yelling that the standards were trash. Gordon looked like his whole life just got crushed. Total shock. Fast forward to the present, Gordon was standing in the snowy mountains with his 2 fancy suitcases, feeling super confused. He thought no demon was allowed to come with Berger, but here he was anyway. Berger walked up, all friendly, and said hi to Gordon. But Gordon was still freaking out, asking why Berger would do that, why he had to say all that stuff about the standards, and why he had to pick Arine of all places. Our MC just acted chill and asked what he meant. Gordon totally lost it. Bro was having a meltdown. He dropped to his knees, looking like he was about to cry. Berger was thinking to himself, wondering if Gordon was always this dramatic. In the previous life, that guy was calm and cool, but things were way different now, so he guessed it made sense. Berger thought that if he explained about his time travel, Gordon would probably think he was nuts, so he kept his mouth shut. After all that drama, Gordon apologized for acting crazy and promised he'd do his job. Well, he then said, Rule 1 from the Demon King's standards. The Demon King had to build a tower, but not somewhere too hidden or too dangerous, or else the heroes couldn't find it. Gordon started lecturing, saying the place they picked was way too dangerous and surrounded by crazy monsters. He said you couldn't build the tower here, and they should move somewhere else. But our boy Berger just ignored him. He knelt down in the snow, pulled out this red glowing thing called a tower seed, and stabbed it right into the ground. Gordon could not believe it. He started yelling that Berger was really breaking all the rules, even the pride of a demon king. But Berger, all cool, just said he never swore any oath anyway. Inside, Berger thought he understood Gordon's disgust, because, as a demon, that faith in the standards was drilled in deep. Unless you died or went through something crazy, it was impossible to break away from it. Our MC, though, literally died, so yeah, he was done with all that. He squeezed his fist until it bled and let his blood drip onto the tower seed. The thing started glowing like crazy, and Berger looked totally fired up. He told Gordon to listen up. The Demon King's standards were garbage, especially in Arine. Why? Because Arine was just full of heroes, way more than anywhere else. When the tower seed activated, a huge red magic circle flashed across the snow. The tower started identifying its owner, Berger, the black flame demonic dragon tribe. Boom! A massive dark tower with glowing red lines exploded out of the ground, shaking everything. Berger told Gordon that demon kings kept dying here because humans learned how the tower worked and used the standards against them. In Arine, the demon king's standards basically meant nothing. To win this place, he said it should really be called the hero's standards now, and he would exploit everything to be the strongest here. Gordon was so confused, he could barely talk. What the hell is this hero's standard anyway? Inside the new tower, Gordon was just staring at the empty first floor. He thought there should be monsters or treasure, but there was nothing there. This was a tower with 0 perks, a tower for a demon king with 0 privileges. On the 5th floor, in a super fancy but empty throne room, Gordon finally pulled himself together and said they at least had to follow Rule 2. The Demon King had to kidnap a prince or princess, preferably one who was close to the throne, to get more demonic energy from all the kingdom's rage and sadness. Gordon pointed to a map and suggested they snatch the princess from the closest kingdom, Corzin. He was sure Burjay would refuse, but then Burjay just agreed, like it was no big deal. Gordon was shocked, and our boy said he already had a princess in mind and told him to stay and protect the tower while he went out. Gordon was so happy he almost cried. He thought Burjay was back to being the top demon king again. The guy decided this was where things really got started. Excited, Gordon asked who he was going for. But Burjay said it was the princess from the country farthest from the tower, way off in the south. What the hell? Gordon is probably crying in the background now. Anyway, now Burjay was flying above the huge, bright city of Hilderan with his wings out, looking like a total boss. He said the one he wanted was the 13th princess, the one nobody paid attention to. You saw this sad, lonely girl sitting in her room, not even knowing what was about to happen. Burjay landed on her balcony and told her he was there to take her. Dude looked like he meant business. Meanwhile, back at the tower, Gordon was freaking out again, thinking this was the total opposite of what the standard said to do. Yeah, our Demon King is so different, but at least he was super smart. Anyway, the princess asked who he was. Our MC told her straight up that he was the Demon King and he was there to kidnap her. Yeah, no sugarcoating. But get this, the princess just sat there, all calm, and asked if he was sure he could handle her. Our hero was so confused. He stared at her like, what the hell is this girl talking about? He thought maybe she thought demon kings were a joke or something. But our MC pulled himself together and said, of course he could. He was a demon king. After all, the princess just smiled and held out her hands, saying if that was the case, she'd let him take her. That's right, no screaming, no calling the guards, just, whatever dude, let's go. Our boy was so surprised, you could practically see the shock in his face. Bet, this girl is gonna do something big later. Burjay then side-eyed her, asking why she was so calm and what she was planning. The princess said she always kind of expected to be kidnapped one day, since she was a princess and all. He squinted at her, not buying it, and told her not to bother trying to trick him. He was desperate, and he wasn't about to fall for any games. But she just shrugged and said she wasn't plotting anything. She asked how she was supposed to set up a trap if she had no idea a demon king would show up today. And honestly, our MC had to admit, she had a good point. Still, something about the whole situation just felt off. Next thing you knew, he was flying through the snowy night, carrying the princess back to his giant tower. Inside the tower, Gordon was waiting and said he was glad the Demon King was back safe. Then, our MC told Gordon to let the princess stay on the 4th floor, not in the prison. Gordon was like, wait, not the prison? The princess just waved and greeted them. He explained she came along without much trouble, so he'd let her have it a bit easier. Gordon said he understood, then led the princess away. Once the princess was gone, Gordon turned back and told the Demon King he had something important to say. Our MC just looked at him, wondering what the deal was. Cut to the 4th floor, where the princess was now sitting alone on the cold marble floor. She was thinking to herself about how hard and chilly it was, and how she really had been kidnapped. She remembered her old comfy life, with soft beds, pretty gardens, and maids everywhere. But now, no pillows, no blankets, nothing nice, just a giant empty hall. But here's the wild part. She just smiled and thought it wasn't so bad. Yeah, this princess was definitely built different. Meanwhile, in the throne room, Gordon was delivering the news. He said they got an invitation from the Tower of Beasts. It was a welcome party for the new Demon King. The Demon King just scoffed, saying that was probably a lame way to mess with the new guy and show off. But in his head, our hero was thinking about how Demon Kings usually hated working together, too proud and all that. Still, in Erin, things were different. They worked together. In his last life, he ignored them all. But sometimes you had to play along. So, he decided that this time, he should show up and see what these guys were about. And now they were off to the Tower of Beasts, a huge place in the middle of the jungle, covered in vines. Inside, a massive wolf demon, Draxon, sat on a bony throne. Draxon introduced himself as the Demon King of Beasts, bragging about ruling there for 70 years. He said he heard our MC mocked the traditional ways, but thought he didn't look very impressive. Our boy wasn't having any of Draxon's attitude and asked if he wanted to fight. Draxon laughed and said he was just doing what Archduke Arcane told him, watching the new guy. He then started acting all tough, throwing a big chunk of meat on the ground and telling our MC to lick it if he wanted forgiveness. Yeah, as if. Berger just ignored the meat and asked if Draxon really didn't get why he was there. Well, Draxon said it was because Berger mocked Demon King traditions. Our boy smiled a little and pointed out that, by those rules, Demon Kings weren't supposed to kill each other. But then, bro, he just stomped his foot and smashed the ground with red energy, shocking Draxon. He said, even after mocking those standards, did Draxon really think he'd play by those rules? Draxon looked terrified but tried to keep his cool. He yelled that Archduke Arcane just wanted to check if the new Demon King had kidnapped a princess, and if he didn't report back in a month, he'd lose his authority. But the Berger and Gordon were already walking away. The MC said he'd already kidnapped a princess, and, get this, she suited his taste. Back at Berger's tower, our Demon King was chilling on his throne while Gordon stood by. Gordon praised him for showing real Demon King power, but our MC said it was nothing special. He figured Draxon couldn't do much for now, but told Gordon to go check on the princess. He wanted to figure out what to do with her. Left alone, the MC started thinking about how all this drama with the other Demon Kings might cause him trouble, but he was still glad he stood up for himself. He even thought if he got a second chance, he'd make the same call. Better to die than bow down to that trash. This time, he was going to build everything up again, his way, from zero. Then, a blue magic screen popped up in front of him, showing his points for kidnapping a princess. He figured, since she was the lowest-ranked princess, he'd only get a few hundred demonic points. But bro, when he looked, it showed over 13,000 points. He was sweating, confused, and had no idea what was going on. Suddenly, he got a message from the Tower of Beasts. Draxon showed up in a video, all friendly, congratulating him and saying what he did in Aryan was really impressive. Draxon even wondered if mocking the traditions was just a trick. That's when our MC realized something was definitely wrong. Right then, Gordon ran in, panicking and yelling that there was a problem on the 4th floor. The Demon King rushed over in shock. And what did he find? The whole 4th floor had turned into this giant, beautiful garden with plants, waterfalls, cute little spirit creatures, and everything. The sky was all digital and weird, like a magic world inside the tower. The princess was just chilling by a stream, surrounded by elementals, and she greeted the Demon King like nothing strange had happened. Our MC was totally losing it inside. He realized the only person who could make an ecosystem like this was someone who had mastered all 4 elements. He then said he clearly went to the 13th princess's castle, but the only spiritist who could do this was the 1st princess. The princess, now holding a little water spirit, just smiled and said he had guessed wrong. She wasn't the 13th princess. Hearing that, our hero just stood there, sweating bullets, while the princess just looked smug, all surrounded by her magic. She then introduced herself as Ernan, the 1st princess of Hilderan. See, everything is messing with Berger in the funniest way. Our MC went out to kidnap some random forgotten princess, but instead, he grabbed the most important, overpowered girl in the whole kingdom. Meanwhile, back in Hilderan Kingdom, the king was absolutely losing his mind. He shouted for his soldiers and heroes to get ready, saying someone dared to steal away his dearest daughter, Ernan. An army was already gearing up to destroy the Demon King. The king was super angry, shouting that they would bring back his princess. Anyway, the princess just smiled with that sly look and said that's why she asked if he really thought he could handle her before. The look on our boy's face said he was not sure anymore. He kept thinking about rumors of a genius mage in the royal family with crazy amounts of mana, and he was still confused how he missed all that. He straight up asked her how she fooled him. That's when the princess whipped out this glowing ring and told him it was a royal heirloom that hid her magic. She waved it around, basically showing off, and asked if that answered his question. Then she asked if he was planning to send her back home. Our MC just stared, looking super stressed, thinking about how bad it would look if he gave her back now. He knew if he chickened out, everyone would think he was a weak demon king, and nobody would be scared of him. That would mean way less demonic energy for him, and he'd be in big trouble. So, yeah, our boy decided he had to stick with it, no matter how risky it was. Suddenly, a blue system screen popped up right in front of him, flashing a warning that Rage was now targeting him and showing he had over 19,000 demonic points. He realized now that everyone was probably coming after him. He stared down at the princess and told her that it didn't matter if she wasn't the 13th princess. She was still his hostage now. The princess looked surprised, maybe thinking, wow, this guy's serious. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Hilderan, things were just as messy. The king was losing his mind, yelling at his advisors that someone needed to kill the Demon King and bring his daughter back right now. The advisors tried to calm him down, telling him they didn't even know which Demon King was behind the kidnapping and that they were still sending out patrols. But the king was not having it. He yelled at everyone to hurry up, saying they were useless. One advisor in a green coat said something was weird about the whole situation. The king snapped at him, asking, "What now?" The green advisor explained that another Demon King, this one called the Demon King of Lust, had kidnapped a prince from a different country not long ago and got crushed by heroes pretty fast. So, it didn't make sense that a Demon King would come kidnap their princess right after that disaster. The king gripped his throne, looking ready to explode, and said it must be a new Demon King causing all this trouble. Just then, a knight ran into the room and gave a report. They'd found traces of teleportation magic heading north toward the Regressed mountains. The king's face dropped, realizing that was about as far away as you could get. Bro, this king is so freaky. He's so ugly and more wicked than Berger. Anyway, our Demon King was chilling on his throne when Gordon told him the Hilderan army was coming soon and asked if he could really handle it. But our MC just smirked, saying there was no way the kingdom would manage to reach him out in the Regressed mountains. This place is in between all the countries, so they need permission to pass over, and no damn country would let a big army pass through easily. That's hit the spot. The king said, if he can't send his troops, there's only one answer left, and asked his soldiers to contact the Hero Guild. Meanwhile, a bunch of adventurers were gossiping in the town square. They saw a poster for the kidnapped princess and started talking about how insane a Demon King would have to be to kidnap the first princess and set up a tower in the Regressed. Some were freaking out, saying those mountains were full of monsters, while a red-bearded guy just said he wasn't about to die hero style for this. In the crowd, a scarred blonde man was thinking to himself that nobody in their right mind would go over there, and the king of Hilderan would just have to suffer. A little creepy, man. Back at his tower, Berger was bragging to Gordon that there was no way the Hero Guild would do anything, since those guys were just in it for the money, and nobody wanted to risk their life fighting demon monsters in the Regressed. That was why he picked that spot in the first place. Gordon was looking at him, thinking that, wow, maybe this guy really knew his stuff about Aaron even if he didn't follow the rules at all. He even wondered if it almost felt like the Demon King had been there before. Cut back to Hilderan, where the king was now having a meltdown about why no hero wanted the job. The advisor explained that most heroes in Erin only cared about gold, so they were being super picky about risking their necks for a rescue mission like this. Meanwhile, our MC was relaxing with a bunch of blue system menus floating in front of him, looking at options for buying skeleton minions and stuff. He knew it would still take a while for any heroes to show up, but also realized that even with all his demonic energy, it wouldn't be enough to fight off a real army of seasoned heroes. He remembered the feeling of facing a hero attack, and, bro, he did not want to feel that again. So, our boy came up with a plan. He ordered Gordon to contact Draxon, the Demon King of Beasts, to sell him some demonic energy for human cash. Gordon just about lost his mind, stuttering and freaking out that the Demon King wanted to trade the most valuable demon currency ever for regular money. Berger explained that while he couldn't buy enough monsters or upgrades with demonic energy alone, there was something big he could do with piles of human cash. Next thing you knew, Berger was out and about, wearing a black cloak, walking up to the gates of Holton Work, a fortress city close to the mountains. 2 guards stopped him, but our hero tossed them a gold coin and told them it was all good. They let him in with no questions asked. Classic. Walking through the crowded city, he thought he couldn't wander around on his own and needed a guide. So, he headed straight for the local mercenary guild, the Scarlet Hawks. Inside, it was wild as usual, with mercenaries drinking and talking. One green-haired guy asked the captain if they should leave soon, but the captain just said there was no need. The soldiers handled monsters. They just took the loot, and life was good. Then someone brought up the rumor about a demon king building a tower in the Regressed mountains and kidnapping the princess, but the captain called it fake news. Said real demon kings always built towers where heroes could reach them easily. Another guy said the hero guild even turned down the rescue job after hearing where it was. The captain thought it was all just a trick to get more money, and everyone laughed about how greedy the hero guild was. That's when things got crazy. Suddenly, Berger was standing right behind the captain, silent and super creepy, glowing blue eyes and all. The captain spun around, screaming in shock, and all the mercenaries started losing it. Berger told them they seemed smart and wanted them as guides. He said to leave just one person behind and for the rest to get out. The mercenaries weren't having any of that, so they charged at him. Our MC just absolutely destroyed them. Nobody laid a finger on him. He tossed guys across the room, broke tables, smashed everything. In the end, he grabbed the captain by the face, glowing red eyes and everything, and slammed him down. The captain was terrified, calling him a monster. Bro, he was indeed a monster, a demon king, so don't ever mess with him, you dumbass mercenary. Anyway, Berger stood over the trembling captain and told him not to be scared. He'd let him live if he answered a few questions. The captain immediately agreed, desperate to survive. So Berger asked where the slave market was. And now, they are in this slave market. The captain led Berger in, showing him a cage full of human slaves, but Berger asked if they had anything rarer. But after Berger gave him a fat bag of gold, this sucker instantly became a servant for him. So he said, of course, they had special stuff. He led them to a darker part of the market. Our boy suddenly thinking about how humans chasing money and demons chasing energy were pretty much exactly the same, both just desperate for more. Using the money, he could buy slaves, specifically rare otherworldly kinds that humans caught. This is the best plan he could think of right now. And now, he saw an elf chained up in a cage. Well, elves were known for being trustworthy, and that this one would be perfect as a spy to cause chaos among the heroes. Meanwhile, back in Hilderan, an announcer introduced a new hero to the king, Hillen Cargill. The king was pumped, saying he knew this guy would take the job, and Hillen promised to bring back the princess and the demon king's head in the name of justice. Anyway, the demon king walked to the slave traders and told them straight up he wanted the elf. He then ordered them to get out for a bit because he needed to talk to the elf alone. And now, it was just the demon king and the elf. The MC walked over and made a big show of calling the elf noble, but also pathetic for ending up like this. Purple energy crackled from his hand as he unlocked the collar, and the elf looked up, suddenly suspicious, asking if Berger was, well, a demon. He then stared at him with pure defiance, basically asking what business a demon could possibly have with an elf like him. Our MC, cool as ever, said he was here to give the elf a chance to get revenge on humans. The elf thought about it, tempted but not trusting demons at all. He said he couldn't trust a demon any more than a human. The demon king shrugged and told him he was different. He offered a deal. If the elf stayed loyal for 50 years, he'd guarantee his freedom and safety. And, bro, 50 years? That's nothing for an elf. Way better than staying chained up and humiliated. The elf thought about the world tree the elves served, remembering that demons were supposed to want to destroy it along with the world itself. The elf glared at the demon king, demanding how he was supposed to trust a demon at all. The MC actually smirked at this and pulled out a trick, vowing on the great demon king's standards that he would keep his promise and never touch the world tree. In his mind, he knew this trash demon king standard had the same level value as the world tree to the elf. He then told the elf to do the same, swear loyalty on the world tree for 50 years. The elf looked at him like he was insane, but if the demon king was willing to go that far, maybe it was real. The elf stood up, chains falling away, and introduced himself as Granada of the Maple tribe, saying he'd make the vow as soon as he met the real demon king. Our MC grinned, saying that he was the demon king himself. Hearing that, Granada just stared at him, then burst out laughing like he'd heard the world's dumbest joke, shouting that a demon king would never come out here just to buy a slave. People knew how demon kings got weaker the farther they got from their tower, so why risk it? He even said if the guy really was a demon king, He'd serve him for 100 years, but there was no way a real Demon King would last out here anyway. Big mistake, bro. After coming to the tower, Burjay sat on the throne. Looking at that, Granada dropped to the floor, sweating buckets and realizing, holy hell, this actually was a Demon King. But suddenly, he got seriously annoyed. He yelled that this had to be a scam, because nobody said the tower would be empty. There was literally nothing up to the 3rd floor, and the 4th floor was just a big nature zone with no monsters at all. He asked what kind of Demon King didn't have monsters. Hearing that insult, our boy got angry and said, "Didn't they make a contract, so stop irritating him?" Feeling the pressure, Granada felt so scared. This power, yes, he is indeed a Demon King. His tower might be sloppy, but those disaster-class monsters do not even dare to attack them when they walk here. Yes, a Demon King is still a Demon King, so maybe he could really get his revenge. So Granada kneeled in front of him and made a big official speech, swearing loyalty for 100 years on the World Tree. He figured if the Demon King himself had come to get him, he must be important now, so he would get a super big mission as part of some evil plan. But then, plot twist, the Demon King just told him to make dinner. Granada's brain kind of broke for a second. He'd been expecting secret meetings and world domination, but the guy just wanted food. Suddenly, he was wearing an apron, madly chopping vegetables, wondering how his life got so weird. While he was at it, Princess Ernan walked in, surrounded by floating spirits, and offered to help cook. Granada was even more confused. He didn't even know what was going on anymore. Later, in a big, empty dining room, everyone sat around this huge table. Granada asked if Ernan was really the Hilderan princess, and the Demon King just said yes. Granada lost his mind, yelling that Burjay was insane for kidnapping the crown princess. He couldn't believe there was nothing in the tower, and he panicked, asking how the hell they were supposed to defend the place when heroes showed up. The Demon King told him that was his job now, so he should just eat for now. Honestly, our MC was too chill. It was kind of scary. After lunch, the Demon King took Granada to the vast green 4th floor and asked if he wanted to fight heroes there. Granada figured that was his big heroic job, but the Demon King said nope, if heroes made it this far, it was already over. Instead, he wanted him to go spy on the humans. But before that, our MC said they needed to test Granada's skills first. He offered to only use one hand and no demonic energy. Plus, he'd cut 50 years off the contract if Granada won. Hearing that promise, Granada got fired up, promising to beat the Demon King and take his years back. He went all out, throwing kicks, using magic vines, and trying every elf trick in the book. But Burjay just blocked everything, barely trying. Granada yelled that he should blame himself for picking the wrong opponent, and tried to land a hit with golden vines and a powered-up punch. The Demon King just grinned, showing off his supernatural strength, and reminded him who he was fighting. He promised not to kill the guy, but bro, the whole tower shook from the fight. Granada realized he never stood a chance. Later, the Demon King went back to the Red Hawk mercenaries and dropped a mountain of gold as a deposit, hiring them for a year. The mercenaries, who had just gotten wrecked by him, decided they suddenly loved their captain and would follow him forever if it meant getting paid. Then, the Demon King told them Granada would be joining their squad to give orders. At first, the mercenary got angry and didn't want a new member. But when Granada showed up with a scarf and bandages, saying hi, the mercenaries all freaked out. That man must be beaten up by Burjay, and as the same comrade got punched by the same person, they finally accepted him into their gang. Bro, this mercenary was so funny. Even our MC thought to himself that these guys may look average, but they were the best you could get in the Regressed, especially because they only needed gold to handle. By the way, he knew the only hero willing to take the job to his tower was Hillen Cargill, who had already defeated the last Demon King of Lust. So, the Demon King gave the mercenaries their first mission: find out everything about Hillen Cargill. The whole squad snapped to attention, ready to go. Now, the Demon King is back at his castle and staring at these floating pictures of the princess and his servant, looking all serious, like he was about to do something huge. But really, our boy just wanted to get stronger. See, he had already sold all his demon energy points. So now the only thing that could make him stronger is something rare called the Spirit Blossom. This was no normal flower, dude. It was a magical crystal that sucked up nature's power for years. just waiting for someone strong enough to eat it and get a crazy boost. These spirit blossoms only grew out in the wild Regressed mountains, where monsters were everywhere, and the weather was straight-up killer. But the blossoms were pure power, so yeah, our MC was ready to risk it. Yet Gordon tried to warn him. He told our hero that looking for these blossoms was basically impossible, like finding a needle in a desert, and those monsters outside wouldn't exactly let him get it easily. They'd probably just try to eat him. The Demon King shrugged, all cool, and said fighting monsters was easy, but finding the blossom would be the real pain, unless someone could sniff out mana like a bloodhound. Right then, the throne room doors banged open, and the princess popped in. She just peeked in, asking if they were busy, like it was totally normal to crash a Demon King meeting. But well, look who this is! Our boy instantly gets a nice idea. Next thing you knew, our MC was out in the snow, rocking a giant fur cape with the princess bouncing along beside him. She was super excited, thinking about how bored she'd been lately, and reminded the Demon King he promised she could decorate the 4th floor however she wanted. Our MC said, yeah, as long as she could find the spirit blossoms for him. But secretly, he was thinking that place already looked like a forest. Just how far is she going to take it next? Anyway, Princess Ernan was so happy just to be outside. She was getting bored lately. Suddenly, Berger said to hold on to him and busted out these huge black wings and scooped her up. Ernan totally freaked out, saying she wasn't ready, but he just blasted into the sky at full speed. She was screaming the whole way. When she finally opened her eyes, though, she was in awe, seeing the world from above for the first time. She thought about how her whole life had just been a boring loop of magic practice, study, and royal lessons. But now, flying high over the snowy mountains, it felt like everything had changed. She looked up at our MC with a big grin and said that probably only she had ever flown over the Regressed mountains before. The Demon King acted like he didn't care, but Ernan told him to just call her by her name. She figured they'd be stuck together for a while, so might as well get used to it. Our boy started thinking maybe he'd let her get away with too much. So, he gave her a little tough love, lifting her by her hand and warning her about her place, even threatening to throw her in the dungeon. Ernan apologized fast, and he told her to use her spirits to find the blossoms. She said yes, and the blue slime spirit took off like a rocket. Finally, at least that princess can do some work for our boy. Berger think it would take a long time, but hey, at least it's way better than himself and Gordon looking at it. But suddenly the princess said she found it. Huh? Even the Demon King lost his word. Soon, they landed on a snowy cliff, but that blossom was already surrounded by monsters. Berger called out to the monsters and told them that, as the Demon King, they should obey. But these monsters, big furry yeti types, were not having it. One told him to get lost and leave the blossom alone. Another just said they didn't care about demon orders, while a third straight up said they'd kill him. Our MC? He started grinning like a total maniac. He powered up, horns poking out, purple energy crackling, ready to show these chumps what a real Demon King could do. The monsters charged, yelling they'd kill and eat him, but our MC just gathered a giant ball of dark energy and blasted them with one huge wave. The energy turned into a massive demon face, eating everything in its path. Monsters were screaming and getting vaporized left and right. Two of the monsters tried to sneak up on Ernan, thinking they could take out the weak one first, but the Demon King popped up in front of them like, nope, not today. He blocked all their attacks, wings out, shielding Ernan with a storm of purple magic. She just stared, wide-eyed, realizing that these monsters, who were tough enough to beat dragons, didn't stand a chance. So this is the real power of the Demon King. After the dust settled, night fell on the snowy battlefield. Ernan kneeled by a glowing blue spirit blossom in the snow, totally amazed. She said it was pure mana. This was a hyacinth, a spirit blossom with water and ice powers. The Demon King warned her not to get greedy, but told her if she found another, she could have one. She got fired up, promising to try her best. But dude, sadly, they never found another patch. Poor girl. Maybe he only got it because of newbie luck? Back in the tower, Berger held the glowing flower and thought about Ernan, crown princess of Hilderan. At first, he thought kidnapping her was a mistake, but now he was realizing she might be way more useful than he'd expected. In the throne room, Gordon showed up looking serious. He said Granada had sent news already. The hero Hilan Kargil and a whole crew of 32 heroes had left the Hilderan capital. But, plot twist, they weren't coming straight for the Demon King. Instead, they were doing the classic hero grind, taking on villager quests, leveling up, getting all their XP before coming after the big boss. Gordon handed over a bunch of plans for stopping the heroes along the way, but our MC just swiped them all into the trash. He said, "This time, no monsters, no tricks, nothing to help the heroes grow stronger. Instead, Granada and the mercenaries would join the hero party, help them out, and build trust. Then, continue explaining his evil plan from his own hero standard rules." Gordon was losing it. He pointed out this was totally not the Demon King standard, and besides, their tower couldn't even stop a hero party right now. Our MC grinned and said he'd upgrade everything, with dwarven magic tools. That set Gordon off. He yelled, pretty much losing his mind, asking if the Demon King really planned to have a dwarf in the tower with a human and a high elf. People would laugh at them, but Burjay just glared, dark energy swirling, and told him to use his head. He didn't want the dwarf, just the gear. Imagine the heroes busting down the door, expecting weak monsters, but instead a wall of cannons waiting for them. That would be fun as hell. Hearing that, Gordon's jaw dropped. He realized that would totally mess with the heroes, but then, suddenly, the Demon King was missing, and Gordon knew his boss too well. Is he gonna do another abduction? He screamed, realizing the Demon King was about to kidnap a dwarf next. Meanwhile, down in the dwarven city of Wolfner, the best blacksmith in the land, Logar Friedrich, was hard at work, hammering away like a boss. He didn't know it yet, but he was about to get snatched by one crazy Demon King. Anyway, near the gate of the dwarf city, our Demon King was already there. You can bet this place looked insane, all carved into the rock with buildings stuck onto cliff walls. Burjay just stared at this crazy city, thinking that before his regression, he had fought plenty of dwarves, but this was his first time actually seeing their home. Anyway, our MC rolled up into a tavern called Midnight Inn and stood up across from this chunky dwarf. He dropped 2 gold coins on the table and said he wanted a weapon made, but had no clue where to start. He asked who the best blacksmith was around here. The dwarf started laughing, telling him that, for a human, he sure knew how to talk business. Our Demon King just said he heard dwarves loved money as much as heroes did, and the dwarf admitted he wasn't wrong. Then our MC got some directions. Head to the middle of the city, find a giant hole, jump onto the lift, let them check your ID, and ride down to the lowest floor. That's where the best blacksmith would be. But of course, our boy didn't wait for the lift like a normal person. He just hopped straight over the railing and dropped all the way down. Yeah, totally normal behavior, right? Anyway, he landed smooth as hell, then walked through a big hallway, right up to a massive sealed door. Inside was Logar Friedrich, the city's #1 blacksmith. The dude was a beast, swinging his hammer, sparks flying everywhere. Our MC watched, thinking the mana around him looked like it was dancing. He was sure now that this guy was really the best. He thought, if he could just snatch Logar quietly, it'd be perfect. But right at that moment, Logar must have felt something weird because he spun around, yelled and straight up threw his flaming hammer right at our MC's face. Our Demon King was shocked. He realized this dwarf had sensed his demonic energy. Was this dude maybe a hero? The flaming hammer crashed right into our MC's hand, but he just caught it, blocked the heat and the blast. He glared at Logar and figured it out. This dwarf was a hero. All right. Logar started shouting, saying he was Logar Friedrich, the blacksmith hero, with the power of heroes, and he wanted to know how a demon dared to step into his city. He yelled that our Demon King wouldn't be leaving alive, but our MC just gave him that evil smile, told him he talked big for someone so weak, and then totally flexed with his demonic wings and horns popping out. He corrected Logar, saying he wasn't just a demon, he was a Demon King. Next thing you know, Logar was down on the floor, hurting and coughing. Our boy kicked him away like it was nothing. From outside the forge, some dwarven guards started yelling, wanting to know what all the noise was about. 2 of them ran in, but the place was a disaster and, oops, Logar was missing. They freaked out, shouting there was an intruder and that Logar had been kidnapped. Total panic mode. They started ringing alarms all over the city and ordered the guards to block every exit. Cut to a dark alley, and our MC was holding Logger down, warning him he'd kill him if he made any noise. Logger was super confused, asking if the Demon King was here for their princess. Our MC said he wasn't interested in a princess, but Logger didn't believe it one bit. The Demon King said he knew dwarves had secret escape tunnels, so Logger should show him the way. Logger was freaking out inside, thinking this was the exact reason he'd tried to stay low and quiet his whole life. He was way too scared to fight Demon Kings. Sucks for him. Then, our hero tried to be smart. He told Logger that if he didn't talk, maybe he'd just kidnap the princess and let him go. And maybe he would add a bit of drama and say that Logger is the one selling the info about the princess. Logger was horrified. If people heard him as the weak hero sold out the princess just to beg for his life, they'd believe it for sure, and his life would be hell. The poor dwarf was sweating bullets. The Demon King then gave him a choice: sell out the princess or follow him on his own 2 feet. Logger instantly blurted out that he'd sell out the princess, but he was still worried about getting tortured anyway. Our MC just grabbed him by the collar, flashing that sharp grin, and promised if Logger helped, he'd guarantee his safety, swearing on the Demon King's standards. Logger's eyes bugged out. No Demon King ever broke a vow like that. Not in demon society. That was basically like signing your soul away. Suddenly, Logger got all hopeful and said, "Fine. Let's head to the secret passage." Meanwhile, back in Logger's workshop, all the guards outside were lined up, and the dwarven princess herself, Louise Verft, stormed in with her pink hair and tiara, looking for Logger. Bro, she looked like a gym rat princess who was ready to kick your ass when you couldn't bench press. And boy, she was pissed Logger vanished while he was making her weapon. The guard told her, all nervous, that they thought Logger was kidnapped. She exploded, yelling that he was a hero. How could he get captured? The guard tried to explain Logger was a blacksmith, not a fighter, but she just screamed at them to go find him, or she'd tear all their heads off. Dude, she was terrifying. Back underground, the Demon King was crawling through a super tight tunnel behind Logger, who complained the space was too narrow. Our MC was not impressed and told him to hurry up, looking all gross because he could only see Logger's butt here. Finally, they came out to a huge underground cavern with a massive bridge. Logger said his job was done, he'd shown the passage, so he was out. But our MC wasn't buying it. He popped up in full demon mode and said Demon King standard trash anyway, so it doesn't matter if he broke his vow. Logger totally lost it, freaking out inside his head. What kind of Demon King was this guy? The poor dwarf started begging for his life, saying he was super useful, the best at making weapons, and that he'd do anything, even be a spy. Berger asked him if he was really willing to work for him, a Demon King, and Logger said anything to survive. The MC said, "Fine, swear your loyalty, and you get to live." Logger dropped to the ground, bowing like crazy. But in his head, he was plotting to rat out the Demon King and get revenge the second he escaped. Yeah, good luck with that. And now, we're back in Demon King's tower on the 4th floor, and Logger couldn't believe his eyes. Where the hell is this? Why the fuck does this place look like a forest rather than a castle? Anyway, Gordon was losing it because our MC actually brought a dwarf home, a hero dwarf even. But Berger just told him to zip it. Meanwhile, Ernan, the princess, walked up to Logger and asked if he had come to rescue her, but guessed he probably didn't. Logger just seemed totally lost, asking why he was even there, since he was supposed to be let go. Berger told him he never promised that. He just said Logger could keep his life. Logger wanted to know how he ended up in this weird place, and Berger said he knocked him out and carried him there, since he couldn't trust what a hero might do if left alone. After all that, Logger started laughing. I mean, really losing it. His laugh got crazier and crazier until he was just standing there in the flowers, howling like a madman. Everybody else just stared. Berger smirked and asked if he was really that happy to be a new member of the squad. Logger, with tears in his eyes, said yeah, of course. He was very happy. Not really, bro, but what choice did he have? That's when Berger gave him his new job. Install a ton of cannons on the 1st floor to blast those heroes to pieces. That's our MC. Always 2 steps ahead and absolutely nuts. You never see the 1st floor with a cannon, right? Meanwhile, at Regressed Hero's Journey Preparation Station, we got Granada sending out info about this group. He was calling the Demon King and said he was already checking on all the rumors floating around. The heroes knew the new Demon King could use black flames, so now they were out here buying fireproof gear like crazy. Not only that, people started whispering that the Demon King wasn't sending out monsters anymore because he was scared. Berja, listening in, just thought these heroes weren't giving up on trying to kill him yet. But our MC had a plan. At least, he figured the heroes wouldn't get anything from this hero's journey. No glory, no gold, nothing. If he kept refusing to fight them directly, they'd get bored, and nobody would get stronger. That was the whole idea. Granada was told to keep watching and reporting, and he agreed. But inside, he was thinking that Berja was a genius for not fighting the heroes head-on. He honestly felt lucky that this Demon King wasn't his enemy. Now, let's jump over to the Demon King's tower, where our MC was putting Logger, the poor dwarf, to work. He said Logger could do whatever he wanted with the first floor, but absolutely no mana stones allowed. Logger nearly had a meltdown, saying there was no way to make a trap for heroes without mana stones. But Berja just told him to figure it out, because heroes could sense mana stones from a mile away. If Logger built a trap with them, the heroes would know before it even started. Logger kept freaked out, but our boy started acting all scary and said maybe he should find a better blacksmith. Right then, Logger changed his tune, claiming he had actually invented a tool that could hide mana traces. Sure, it took 3 years to make one, but he just happened to have one back in his workshop. Berja wasn't buying it and thought Logger was trying to escape, but the dwarf swore it was for real. So, the Demon King decided to trust him with a little twist. He snapped a magic chain around Logger's neck, told him this thing could pop his head off with just one command, and then gave him goggles that glitched his face out so nobody could recognize him. The lesson? Don't take those goggles off, or it's game over. Logger was totally broken at that point, promising to never take them off, ever. So, the two of them went on a shopping trip across different kingdoms to grab all the materials they could find. It took about a month, and Berja stuffed everything into his subspace pocket like some kind of walking warehouse. After that shopping marathon, they headed back to Wolfner's, the dwarven city. And, oh man, things there were a mess. Princess Louise, aka the Gymrat Princess, was basically losing her mind, screaming at her guards for not finding Logger after a month and a half. She told them if they didn't catch him in 2 weeks, they were dead meat. Classic angry boss mode. She even ordered to search all over the tunnels and stared at the broken pieces of a black weapon Logger made before he vanished. She went from mad to straight up crazy, muttering that Logger wasn't allowed to die until he finished her weapon. Guess what? Logger somehow popped out of one of his secret tunnels right then, still rocking those glitchy goggles. Louise spotted him immediately, saying that this tunnel is specially used for Logger, and wondered if that man was Logger himself. Looking at the princess, Logger could only panic, but the Gymrat Princess started accusing him of hiding just to avoid making her weapon. Poor guy could barely get a word out, just stuttering and denying everything. But Louise didn't care. She was in full psycho mode now. She decided Logger was her slave for life and that he'd pay for running away, right there and then. Just as she was about to smash him, Berja showed up with a purple shockwave, blocking her attack like a total boss. Louise was shocked, demanding to know who the hell he was. Our MC told Logger to hurry and grab his stuff, and Logger ran for it. Princess Louise was still raging, yelling that Logger belonged to her. But Berja just smirked and called himself the boss of the blacksmith she was bullying. That didn't go over well. This super buff princess came at him, fists blazing with golden energy. Berja moved like lightning, dodged everything, and then hit back with a burst of purple power, sending her flying. She was one tough cookie though, and bounced right back, only to find Berja standing behind her in an instant. Even our hero had to admit, before he turned back time, Louise used to be way stronger, a real monster. But he didn't want to go all out, because his strength wasn't the same as before either. He is still weak as hell, especially since he was far away from his tower. He was worried that if he used everything he had, he could get caught by her soldiers. Meanwhile, Logger was sweating bullets as he hurried to take apart his big magic device, the Mana's Phantom, which could hide mana traces and was about the size of a truck. Berja growled at him to finish up in under a minute, and Logger screamed that he'd try. Meanwhile, the big princess wasn't having it, still angry as fuck. The Demon King threatens to leave Logger behind and kill him if he does not speed up. Fighting this Gymrat princess is super hard work. To be honest, He don't have any idea how long he will be able to last without his real demonic energy and power. But, well, he will do his best anyway. So, Berger and Louise kept blasting each other with purple and gold explosions, tearing up the dwarven hall. She screamed that Berger would never leave alive and that Loger was dead meat. Our boy just laughed, saying she sounded like a demon king herself and that he was taking the blacksmith and the fancy device no matter what. Finally, Loger got the last piece off the Mana's phantom and yelled that he got it. Hearing that, Louise lost her mind, calling him every bad word in the book and swearing he'd regret stealing from her. That's when Berger spotted an opening, hit her with a quick move, and sent her flying again. While she picked herself up, our boy packed up the device with his subspace pocket and shouted for Lager to move out. When the Gymrat princess finally stood up again, she was shocked to see the device was missing, and both Loger and the dark-haired man were already gone. Suddenly, Louise's guards finally showed up, but way too late. She screamed at them for being slow and told them to chase Loger through the tunnel, only to find it already ablaze with a big magic. In the end, she just looked at the rubble and started to realize maybe Loger really didn't want to make her weapon. You could almost see her brain short-circuiting. But instead of giving up, Louise just got even scarier. She literally powers up and becomes scarier than a demon king. Promised herself she would search the whole continent if she had to, just to hunt Loger down and make him pay. That was one angry dwarf princess, bro. Loger was now officially public enemy #1 in Wolfners. Bro, that poor dwarf. Now, back at the Demon King's tower, the whole squad was standing around on the first floor, staring at this giant glowing ball thing in the middle of the hall. Gordon looked like he'd just found a dragon in his closet. He asked what the hell that thing was, and even complained that he was busy cleaning. Princess Ernin's eyes went wide. She thought it looked awesome, and our boy just answered that it was a special magic tool to stop the heroes. Lager, the poor dwarf who always seems about 1 second away from a mental breakdown, announced that the Mana's phantom was set up and ready. Berger was impressed but told him to fire it up. Loger got so nervous he almost fainted, but he said sure thing, he'd do it. The device then fired up, glowing like a mini sun. It blasted out bright blue light, so intense that Gordon and Ernin had to cover their eyes. And get this, a system message popped up in the air, asking if Berger wanted to sync the tower with this massive magic device, but it was going to cost him some major points. Looking at that, our protagonist was shocked, asking if the tower could really do that. So, he just looked dead serious and said yes to the system. Boom. His points took a nosedive, dropping by like 10,000. That thing must drink more energy than Gordon chugs coffee. Suddenly, the magic device and the whole area were buzzing with purple demonic energy, and another message appeared. Now, the Mana's phantom recognized Berger as its master, and it was running on pure demonic energy, not from mana anymore. Looking at this new invention, Loger freaked out, saying he had no idea this was possible. He looked like he was about to explode from excitement, yelling that even he, as the person who invented this thing, never imagined it could merge with a tower or run on demonic energy. He called it the discovery of the century. Man, this guy loves his tech. Berger wasn't done yet. He told Ernan to try using any spell she wanted. She got super hyped and decided to go all out. Suddenly, she was whipping up a giant wild tornado of fire and water magic right inside the tower. Gordon just screamed, because he'd just finished cleaning. You guys keep stressing the goat, Gordon. Anyway, Berger watched the chaos and thought to himself that a spell this huge should be easy to sense, even from outside. But when he checked, he couldn't see any trace of it from the outside. Turns out, the Mana's phantom was making his whole tower invisible, even from magic detection. That's not just cool, it's insane. He tested his power, covered the tower in demonic energy, and poof, the whole tower disappeared like a magic trick. He could bring it back anytime too, but every time he did, his energy points drained so fast. If he kept that up, he'd be flat broke in the energy department. Now, our boy was feeling pretty smug. He told himself it was tough to always be activating the power right now, but it would definitely come in handy soon. Back inside the tower, Loger was practically drooling, begging Berger to let him take apart the device and the tower so he could study them. He said he'd never seen anything so wild in his entire life, and he even bowed down, literally, just to ask permission. Our MC just smirked and told him he could do whatever he wanted to the tech, but only if his trap on the first floor totally destroyed the heroes. That got Lodger all fired up again. He swore he'd wipe out those so-called heroes for sure. Meanwhile, Berger called Ernan over and told her he had an idea. He wanted her to face off with the heroes if they made it up to the fourth floor. Ernan looked at him like he was nuts. She reminded him that she was a princess, not some muscle-headed fighter. But Berger knew the truth. This girl was a genius spirit user, and honestly, she didn't even want to go back home to her royal palace. He thought maybe it was kind of harsh to ask her to fight her own people, since she was just an innocent princess who didn't really get how the world worked. But, well, looking at how eager Ernan is to fight, it seems she really don't want to go back to her kingdom again. She said okay, she would do it, but she wanted to be introduced as the Demon King's subordinate, not as a princess. Well, that's too easy for our boy, so he agreed. In the end, he figured the plan was set: blow away as many heroes as possible with big mana cannons on the first floor, then use Ernan as bait to finish off the rest on the fourth floor. Smart, right? But there was a problem. There were over 200 heroes coming for him, and he knew his traps wouldn't even take out half. Our hero realized that, in the end, he'd have to get even stronger himself. So, he looked at this weird, glowing purple flower in his hand, a spirit blossom, now poisoned with demonic energy. He figured these things were crazy strong, so he needed to find more, and fast. Next, our MC and Ernan went hiking through the freezing mountains, looking for more spirit blossoms. They had no luck. Ernan's spirits were flying around all panicked, and Berger was getting salty with them. He called them useless, and they looked so angry that they started punching him cutely. Suddenly, a giant blue monster stomped out of nowhere. Our boy Berger was ready to fight, but the big guy, Krutu, chieftain of the Blue Frost tribe, just bowed down and begged the Demon King to take his tribe in as kin. Krutu explained that his people had demon ancestors and wanted to serve a Demon King to get stronger. Berger saw right through him. He knew the orcs just wanted power. After all, they are more suited for demonic energy than spirit blossoms. Krutu didn't bother denying it. He pulled out a box filled with different colored spirit blossoms, showing he was ready to deal. Our boy looked like her birthday had come early, seeing all those flowers. He was actually kind of impressed and said these orcs were way smarter than most. Turns out, in these harsh mountains, wisdom mattered more than strength. Krutu's tribe had learned to be clever just to survive. So, Berger told Krutu he'd take him in, but only him, not the whole tribe. He told him to roam the snowfields and grow his people, and if he did a good job, he would give him something better than just strength. Krutu got promoted right there, glowing with fresh demonic power. He got the demonic mark, and all the orcs bowed down, swearing loyalty like their lives depended on it. You could tell they were ready to go all in for the Demon King. Now, things were really shaping up. Outside the tower, an army of orcs stood ready, buzzing with red energy. On the first floor, Lager was surrounded by a wall of mana cannons, looking way more confident than before. Up on the fourth floor, Ernan hung out in a magical garden, her spirits floating around while she prepped her mind for the coming fight. In the throne room, our boy Berger sat like a boss, watching a bunch of holograms that showed where all the heroes were and how close they were to his tower. He told himself all the pieces were in place, and he was just waiting for the heroes to show up so he could finally pay them back for all the humiliation from his past life. Bro, you could see the fire in his eyes. Meanwhile, out in the snow, Hillen Cargill and Granada led the hero party up the mountain. Granada looked all innocent, but we know the dude's a spy for Berger. The heroes stood on a snowy ridge, staring at the Demon King's domain. Finally, they reached their destination. Now, they were ready for the big showdown. Oh man, things were about to get messy. Anyway, before the fight, all the heroes decided to party first at this place called Holton Walk, a super big city with huge walls and a massive castle. Inside, there was this giant banquet. Every hero was there, shoving food in their faces and having a great time. The fortress master, this old dude with a white beard, looked really happy to be sitting next to Hillen, the hero everyone loved. The fortress master told Hillen to get up and make a speech. Hillen looked kind of shy for half a second, but the old man was not letting him wiggle out of it. So finally, Hillen stood up, cleared his throat, and started talking to everyone, heroes, knights, wizards, even merchants. He said the hero's journey was finally at the end, and joked that maybe the Demon King had gotten scared, since he hadn't sent out any monsters yet. The crowd thought that was hilarious. But Hillen told them to stay sharp, and reminded everyone they were about to punish the Demon King for kidnapping Princess Ernan. He shouted that they were going to remind the world who was boss. The whole room went wild, waving their wine glasses and yelling for justice. Dude, even Granada was there in the crowd, just watching with that poker face. Inside, he was losing it a little. He thought the Demon King had guessed everything right. The heroes weren't adding their numbers, but nobody was quitting either. Hillen was actually dragging the whole group forward with his popularity, even the mercenaries, who usually just bailed out when things got rough. But he was worried. He remembered the Demon King's tower looked empty last time he saw it. He wondered if maybe he should just smack these heroes and help the Demon King. Then he panicked at himself, thinking he was nuts. If the heroes actually won, he'd be free. Poor guy had to pull himself together and decided he needed some air, and probably to send a report to his damn boss. So, Granada stepped out onto a balcony. He contacted the Demon King and explained that after a quick rest, the heroes would climb the mountains tomorrow. Berger said he understood, and also told Granada to keep an eye on the snow at night, and most important, when the tower doors opened, to stand far away. The elf was confused. Like, what the hell was that supposed to mean? The Demon King ended the call, but the dude's still wondering if there was something more going on. Then Hillen suddenly showed up out there on the balcony, catching Granada by surprise. He offered him a drink, some fruit wine elves like, and said Granada seemed worried. Well, Grana said he was just thinking about tomorrow, and asked if they could really beat the Demon King. Hillen admitted he didn't actually know either. Leading the heroes was never easy, and it never went smoothly. Granada tried to tease him, pointing out that Hillen had killed the Demon King of Lust before, so this new Demon King should be easy. But suddenly, Hillen's face became dark. The hell? Now this dude seems so sus. Anyway, the hero just smiled and said he only managed that because of his brave friends, like Granada, who always went ahead and took care of monsters. If they worked together, they'd win for sure. Granada nodded, saying he'd do just that. They both went back to the party, but Hillen gave him a serious look behind his back, thinking to himself that he'd need Granada's help again as the elf, then kissed his creepy artifact. Yeah, this dude 100% a fucked up hero as well. The next morning, it was hype. The whole city showed up to cheer as Hillen's hero party marched out. People were yelling their names, waving, totally pumped for the big fight. Now, out in the Regressed mountains, things got real. The heroes marched through this massive snowy canyon. Some of them were saying how it was easy since there weren't as many monsters as they'd heard. They even joked that the monsters must be scared of Hillen. Bro, they were way too cocky. Suddenly, a purple blast hit one of them in the head. He looked up and saw ghouls, a ton of huge, scary ghouls, falling down from the cliffs. The guy freaked out, yelling about how big they were. Well, looks like the monsters finally showed up. Hillen took charge, yelling for everyone to get into battle formation and protect each other. Ghouls chased the heroes, some people fell down. It was chaos. Then, right when things couldn't get worse, someone shouted that a frost giant had appeared in the front. Bro, the ice titan suddenly came to this manhwa. I bet Aaron is gonna show up next. Anyway, Hillen told everyone to run and said he'd handle the frost giant alone. The other heroes thought he was crazy, but Hillen was sure he could handle it. His sword started glowing blue as he jumped straight at the frost giant. The monster swung at him, but he dodged and counterattacked, his sword clashing with icy limbs and sending blue energy everywhere. Finally, he went all out, blasting the frost giant with a huge attack. It exploded in a burst of light and ice. After the monster that blocked the canyon is dead, he yelled for everyone to run. The heroes just ran for their lives through the snow, barely escaping. After getting out of that crazy place, everyone was totally exhausted. They were almost dead. One guy said humans weren't built for this kind of crazy. Another said the Demon King's old tower wasn't even this bad. But they also admitted, thanks to Hillen, not too many of them had died yet. They started hyping him, saying he'd killed a Demon King before, so he was probably even stronger now. They all agreed. If they just trusted Hillen, they'd be fine. Granada also acknowledged him. thinking to himself that Hillen might actually beat the Demon King this time. He was going to be free soon. Yeah, good luck with that, bro. Suddenly, there was this weird sound out in the mountains. The heroes looked up and saw a whole army of blue frost orcs marching across a ridge. Hillen said he could feel demonic energy and knew these orcs worked for the Demon King. The Orc King, Krutu, welcomed all of the heroes and called them stupid. One hero in full armor got cocky, saying he could beat the orcs all by himself, but Granada started to get suspicious about some strange noise. He remembered how Burjay just said to watch the snow. That's when he realized, way too late, what the warning from before really meant. He started freaking out, shouting at the Demon King in his head. Krutu gave his own creepy welcome to the heroes, basically telling them they weren't going to leave alive. Suddenly, the ground started cracking and rumbling under the heroes' feet. Nobody was ready for what happened next. The avalanche started to come their way, and everyone almost lost their mind. Granada also lost it, screaming that there was no way anyone could have watched out for this. Of course, he called Burjay a crazy bastard. As the massive avalanche crashed down the mountain, Granada shouted at everyone to run. Meanwhile, Burjay was just chilling in his throne room, watching all this chaos on his magic screens. He smiled, all cool and cocky, welcoming the heroes to his nightmare. He swore that this time, he was the one doing the hunting. Anyway, he already warned Granada about 3 things. First up, the snow. This was his first tactic. Well, this worked wonderfully. The heroes are scrambling everywhere, trying not to get buried. But our Demon King isn't done. The second thing he warned Granada was to never let his guard down at night. So, when night falls, it's even worse. Frost giants and ghouls are everywhere, lurking around the heroes' camp. These orcs are actually herding the monsters right toward the heroes. Like, what the hell, right? The heroes try to get ready for battle, but it's total madness. Granada is right in the middle of it, super angry and probably regretting all his life choices. He kept cursing the Demon King, but it's not helping at all. Burjay's just grinning, saying this is the pattern. Avalanche by day, monsters by night, and it just keeps repeating. He watches all these blue screens while heroes run around screaming, and you can tell he's loving every minute. Fast forward, 3 days in, and the hero group went from 511 people down to just 256. Ouch. Hillen is standing on a mountain ridge, looking around all confused and angry. After all this damned journey, he wonders why the Demon King's tower isn't there, since everyone knows towers are supposed to be easy to find, right? He's losing it, yelling that it's just common sense for a tower to be out in the open. But to make things worse, some heroes are just done. Wharton, one of his guys, tells him they're giving up and that their lives matter more. Hillen looks shocked as he watches them walk away. Bro, the hero party is falling apart fast. Skip ahead a few more days, and now the group is down to only 52 people. Finally, a hero finds the Demon King's tower, hidden down in a basin, totally out of sight. He curses out loud, realizing the Demon King had been hiding it the whole time. Because they got so angry, everyone lost their mind and decided to open this stupid tower and kill the Demon King. They act like they're about to win, talking trash about the first floor being filled with weaklings. But bro, our Demon King was just smiling. He also told Granada the third warning: when he opens the tower, stand far away. As the heroes step inside the tower, they see weird glowing blue things aimed at them. They're confused for about 2 seconds, and then, bam! The mana cannons fire off a giant blue beam, blasting absolutely everything. After the dust settles, 52 heroes down to 1. It was a massacre. Back in the throne room, Burjay is smirking again. But then he notices that wasn't enough. There's still 1 hero left. Yep, it's Hillen. Bro literally thanking that crazy cannon. The dude is standing in the ruins, totally confused and mad, looking around like he's lost his mind. He screams out, asking what the hell is with this Demon King, since nothing about this place is normal. Granada suddenly came over, alive. Hillen was shocked the elf was still alive and checked if he was okay, so Granada said he barely survived. Hillen says thank goodness, and tells him they're going to keep going. Granada can't believe it's just the 2 of them, but Hillen, feeling all bossy, says he killed the last Demon King and nothing can stop him now. So they head up. But the hell, when they arrived on the 2nd floor, that place is hella empty. The 3rd floor? Empty too. Helen is starting to freak out a little, since the place should be packed with monsters, but Granada was panicked on the inside. If the second and third floor were literally empty, that freaky princess was going to show up soon. And when they reach the fourth floor, suddenly they're in this magical garden, flowers everywhere, glowing butterflies, super bright and colorful. Helen is completely thrown off, saying how the fuck there was a forest inside a Demon King's tower. Well, Granada just curses under his breath. This crazy princess is literally making this place more colorful than before. Then, a woman's voice laughs out loud. They look up and see this totally different Ernan. She's got a black beret, cat-eye glasses, a purple bow, and some major attitude. She floats down, surrounded by all these little glowing spirits, and says she's one of the 4 heavenly kings protecting the Demon King. She calls herself the Dark Spiritist and says she's their opponent now. Helen and Granada both lose it. The hero instantly recognizes her as Princess Ernan and is totally confused by her new look. He asks why she's dressed like that, and Ernan just grins super wide, insisting she's not a princess anymore. She's the Dark Spiritist, and now they're about to see some real magic. She then floats up, arms spread, and summons a giant swirling storm of ice, fire, wind, and earth. The hero is stunned. He knows that kind of spirit magic is crazy powerful, and only Princess Ernan could do it. But to do this, she has to be acting on her own, not controlled. He started to get crazy and couldn't believe how bizarre this tower was. From orcs, avalanches, ambushes, a hidden tower, mana cannons, empty floors, and now a totally wild princess on the last floor. He's got so angry, and honestly, who can blame him? He can't figure anything out and is about to lose his mind. Like, why is the princess attacking the hero who's supposed to save her? That's not how the story's supposed to go. Helen, furious, says fine, he'll just destroy everything. Suddenly, our Demon King floats down, fully powered up and looking terrifying. He sends a giant purple energy blast crashing into the hero, making a huge explosion. Then, he steps forward with dark energy swirling around him. He finally gets to face Hilan Cargill, the hero who's been such a pain. Hilan points his glowing sword at Burjay, raging about the Demon King ambushing him like some kind of coward. He looks around, realizing he needs more power, and turns to Granada. He then runs at him with full speed and puts his hand on the elf's shoulder, and suddenly the green energy starts flowing out of Granada and into Hilan. Poor Granada is shocked in agony. He realizes his energy is being drained away. After sucking all the energy, he smirked while saying, "Didn't he already tell him before? As long as he's by his side, there's no problem." On the side, Burjay watches all of it. He got interested and figures out that the ring Hilan is wearing is some kind of artifact. Hilan admits it's called the Elf Eater. It drains an elf's infinite vitality to give him mana, but it kills the elf after you use it. He laughs and says, Granada should be fine with it, since it's for the greater good. Granada, the poor victim himself, is barely holding on, calling Hilan a swindler and a hypocrite. Damn, that's cold. I know this hero was super sketchy from the start. Anyway, Burjay thinks it's hilarious, teasing Hilan that if he just takes off the ring, he will go back to being weak, right? Hilan laughs it off, saying even the last Demon King couldn't take the ring off. How could a mere weak new Demon King do it? Right then, Hilan suddenly screams in pain. He looks down and sees blood on his armor. His hand has been slashed, and he has no idea what just happened. Turns out, Gordon, the demon dude in glasses, snuck up behind him and stabbed him right in the back. He tells the hero that he's both rude and noisy for a human, which, honestly, is kind of true. Hilan drops to his knees, realizing he just got wrecked by a high-ranking demon even with all his cheating artifacts. He can't believe it. Burjay stands over him in full demon mode, grinning like a maniac. He tells him that he won't walk out of this place alive. Sensing he was in danger, Hilan tries to dodge, but there's just no way. His body won't move. Burjay, looking like a full-on monster, is too strong. The pressure freezes his whole body. And now, the Demon King prepared a big attack with a huge purple energy claw. Hilan tried to move his body, but again, it's pointless. Who the fuck is this Demon King anyway? Why is this one so strong that it doesn't make any sense at all? Meanwhile, the Demon King only laughs, telling Hillen it's time for a beating. Then he blasts him with that terrifying purple energy. Bro, Burji was literally the strongest demon king, so of course, this nobody hero like Hillen is gonna die miserably. I just feel bad for Granada. That poor guy had been through a lot.